Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Still here from Spain Speaks with an update on the current situation in Spain. Day 257 of the current situation. Bit of a slow news day today with the death of Maradona taking up most of the headlines around the country. But I've managed to find some interesting news to keep you guys updated on what's happening in the country at the moment. Firstly, a big thanks to everybody that left comments on the last video. Lots of comments, lots of debate happening there as usual. Thanks to people that supported the channel through a small donation. You can see your name here. Thanks to all of the people that bought merchandise, and a big thanks to my patrons on Patreon for your support. Now let's get into the news. All of the talk in the country is still about Christmas, what it's going to look like this year, what the restrictions are going to be, and who is going to be in charge of putting those restrictions in place. Well, as we can see here, the health department has left the Christmas restriction plans in the hands of the autonomous communities. Next week, together with regional governments, it will set a series of recommendations in the Interterritorial Council. The Minister of Health, Salvador Illa, has indicated that each autonomous community will have to take decisions about Christmas based on the epidemiological situation of the coronavirus in the region, and has stressed that the measures that the government issues for these holidays will always be recommendations. So the central government there again deciding to set out a series of recommendations that the autonomous communities will have to follow come Christmas time. I suppose they're going to be fairly flexible, but it's going to mean for a chaotic Christmas here in the country, as different regions will have different rules and regulations, as we saw, that will depend on their health situation. So, for example, Andalusia, the Junta de Andalucía wants common measures to be agreed and is studying establishing a protocol so that Andalusians who live abroad can return for the holidays. The Ministry of Health, however, considers that it is still too early to close measures and prefers to wait and see how the epidemiological situation progresses between now and mid-December. And in Catalonia, the Generalitat has already expressed that they will have their own plan, nothing surprising about that, regardless of what the ministry proposes. It contemplates making the measures more flexible on the dates indicated, but everything will depend on the evolution of the epidemic. So a confusing Christmas I expect this year in Spain, as the different regions, different autonomous communities will impose their own restrictions, and I imagine that travel around the country will be somewhat restricted. Now, the health department's vaccination plan is also in the news today. We can see here that the minister has specified the vaccination plan against the coronavirus will take place in January in 3 stages and for 18 population groups. After the Council of Ministers, Salvador Illa has announced the vaccination plan against the virus. It is part of the European vaccination plan and will be unique and in collaboration with the autonomous communities. The first group to be vaccinated against the virus will be in January, the Minister of Health said. For the prioritization of the groups, 18 population groups have been established based on 4 types of risk: the risk of mortality, the risk of exposure to the disease, the risk of socio-economic impact, and the risk of disease transmission. So 18 population groups established, and it's going to be interesting to see which one I fit into and when the vaccine will be available for people like me. Now, with the health situation in the country slowly improving, some areas have decided to ease restrictions and others have decided to extend restrictions, and that is the case of La Rioja, who will remain confined until December the 19th. La Rioja will continue with perimeter confinements until next month, and this is a measure that the municipality of Amedo will also maintain. However, Logroño, the capital, will lift restrictions this Sunday. So La Rioja, they're deciding to keep their borders closed until the 19th of December, and I sure hope that the wine supply from that particular part of Spain hasn't been interrupted. Now let's have a look at the health situation around the country by looking at a map of Spain as a whole and various autonomous communities. We can see here, looking at a map of Spain, that the risk level around the country is still extreme. The total amount of cases there has cracked the 1,600,000 mark. The accumulated incidence rate in the last 14 days is now down to 340.83 at a national level. There have been 1,204 deaths in the last 7 days, and there are currently 15,986 COVID patients hospitalized around the country, and 2,838 of those patients are in ICUs. The Madrid community now, the risk level has been dropped to high. The accumulated incidence rate in the last 14 days now down to 261.02, 37 deaths in the last 7 days, 1,976 patients in hospital with COVID, and there are 362 COVID patients in ICUs in the Madrid community. Aragon now, which is one of the most punished areas in Spain, and we can see here that the risk level there is still extreme. The total amount of cases there, the accumulated incidence rate in the last 14 days, 432.2, 111 deaths in the last 7 days, and there are 622 patients hospitalized with COVID, and there are 98 COVID patients in ICUs in Aragon. Andalusia now, the risk level is still extreme. Total amount of cases there. We can see the AI accumulated incidence rate in the last 14 days, 395.2, 215 deaths in the last 7 days in Andalusia. And there are 2,632 patients in hospital with COVID and 484 COVID patients in ICUs. And finally now the Canary Islands, we can see that it's the only part of Spain with a low risk level. The total amount of cases there. The accumulated incidence rate in the last 14 days in the Canary Islands sits at 77.46, 14 COVID deaths in the last 7 days, 237 COVID patients hospitalized, and 40 COVID patients in ICUs in the Canary Islands. So things looking good there in the Canary Islands, and I imagine that it's going to be one of the only places in Spain that is going to have a relatively normal Christmas period. Now, we all know that Spain is in a very difficult situation politically, very divided. COVID is not the only problem for Pedro Sanchez and his government. They have had many problems trying to get budgets passed, and there's a lot of internal opposition to some of the pacts that they have made in recent times, especially trying to get those budgets passed. We can see here in an article from Bloomberg that a new Spain is emerging that drives conservative opponents crazy. Pedro Sanchez's budget deal will shore up the foundations of his minority government and offer the chance of some political stability in Spain after 5 years of division and paralysis. However, the prospect has left his right-wing opponents furious. In a country where ideological divisions run deep, the Prime Minister has already been vilified by conservatives for stealing a coalition agreement with the far-left group Podemos in January. To pass his spending plan, he has cut deals with nationalists from Catalonia in the Basque Country who want independence from the rest of Spain. But in response, Isabel Díaz Ayuso, president of the Madrid region and one of Sanchez's most acerbic critics, accused the premier of using money from taxpayers in the capital to buy support from regional allies, a practice that is as old as Spanish democracy. All the same, she vowed to become the worst nightmare of those who want to steal from Madrid. And the French newspaper Le Figaro has praised Ayuso's management and describes her as the new black beast of the Sanchez government. The French newspaper Le Figaro has described the president of the Community of Madrid, Isabel Díaz Ayuso, as the new muse of the Spanish right and the black beast of the Pedro Sanchez government. The French media considers that the regional leader is the political discovery of 2020 and emphasizes that it has made her voice heard and it's always different from that of the central executive. So what is it they say? That out of crisis comes opportunity? That is definitely the case for the president of the Madrid community, who has used these last 9 months to increase her political clout. And as we saw there, she is the new black beast of the Sanchez government. Now let's have a look at some of the comments from recent videos. One here from DC Castillo. Seems like there's not much parking in Madrid. Hey Stuart, how much is a parking ticket in Spain? Thanks. Yeah, DC, thanks for the comment. You're right, there's not a lot of parking spaces in a city like Madrid. Parking can be a difficult experience. I must say it has improved over the years now that they have these parking zones and you have to pay for parking in the capital. But when I first came to live in Madrid, it was absolutely chaotic. People would park virtually anywhere. But that has improved over the years, and it's a similar situation in a lot of Spanish cities. Spanish cities, of course, are very compact, and you'll often see parking inspectors out in force. I haven't been fined for a while. I think the last fine I got was about 3 years ago, and it was 90 euros in Madrid. But if you pay in a certain amount of time, you get a 50% discount. So it ended up costing me 45 euros for a parking ticket. So if you get a couple of those every month, it can really dent your finances. One here from Jason. Hi Stuart, I'm getting ready to move to Spain, and as a UK citizen living in Canada with a Canadian wife, I want to know how important it is to arrive before the end of 2020, while I am still a member of the European Union. My sister is currently buying a house in Spain, and theoretically, she could put my name on it if that would help matters for me. I won't be buying a house there till 2021, but I can probably get to Spain before the end of the year, at least if that will make a significant difference. Can you talk a bit in a future video about the significance of Brexit 2021 for people moving to Spain? I imagine others will be be interested. Thanks. Yeah, Jason, thanks for the comment. I'll put your queries directly out there to the viewers of the channel, British people in the same situation as you, people that know what's going on regarding Brexit and 2020. To be honest, I don't really follow this because it doesn't affect me, but I know that there are many people that find themselves in the same situation as you and would like to have information about this topic. So if you can help Jason out and give him an idea of what's going on regarding that topic, please let him know in the comment section below. One here from Ben. I'm intrigued to know how often you travel back to Australia. Pandemic aside, I travel back to the UK regularly for work and to see family and friends. However, my first trip back since the beginning of the pandemic is booked at Christmas, and I'm still hoping that I'll be able to do that. You might call that denial. Yeah, Ben, thanks for the comment. I've always envied people from the UK and Ireland, just how often they can get back and see friends and family. If you want to have a weekend back, get a decent pint, get a decent curry, you just hop on a plane and in a couple of hours you are there. Not the case for me. It's a very, very difficult operation for me to get home. It's a 24-hour flight normally, sometimes a little bit less, sometimes a little bit more, and it is very, very fatiguing if you take into consideration the jet lag when you get there and the jet lag when you get back. And it's very, very expensive. I used to go back every year. I think one year I went back twice because my grandmother died and I went back to see her before that happened. But ever since my son was born, I've been going back every 2 years because obviously we have an extra cost. But I love going back, especially at Christmas time, mainly because it's summer. One here from Jan. Thanks, Stuart, for the work you have been doing throughout this situation we find ourselves in at this time. We want to fly to Alicante in December, starting from Helsinki, Finland, but with a plane change in Amsterdam Airport. As I understand, the PCR test is not required from citizens of Finland coming from Finland, even if there is a transfer, as long as we stay in the terminal in Amsterdam. Do you or anybody here have info regarding this? Yeah, Jan, thanks for the comment. Again, I'll put the question out there to the community to help you get the information that you need. I'm sure that somebody will know exactly what the situation is. I think that if you come from a country like Finland directly, you shouldn't have a problem. I don't know if there are a lot of direct flights from Spain to Finland, but I suppose that if you come directly from there, you won't need the test because Finland has the COVID situation more or less under control, at least compared to other European countries, and I don't think it's on the list of 65. However, if you change planes in one of those 65 countries and come directly from there, it could make things a bit different, but I suggest you try to talk to the airlines and see what their policy on that is, because you might get asked for a PCR test before you board that plane. But as I said, I'll open it up to the community and hopefully we can get some definite answers. One here from Anth. Enjoyed this dose of common sense and hearing why you accept the reality of international travel home, current vaccination regulations, conspiracy loons, and here's my facts crowd. You should drive more often. Australia requires UK citizens to test for TB before entering on a visa over 3 months. You can't fly from Sydney to Melbourne with an apple. A whole state was locked down for 6 days over 23 COVID positive cases. Qantas requiring a vaccination is not a shocker. Yeah, thanks for the comments. I was a little bit loose in yesterday's video while driving around. I needed to get a few things off my chest. It gets a bit frustrating reading some of the comments in the comment section, especially some of the crazier ones. And you're right, Australia is a country with very strict regulations. A lot of people probably don't know that, but you can't travel around the country with fruit. You can't even travel from Western Australia to South Australia with fruit. There are signs on the border telling you that you have to throw it out. And to be honest, I get nervous every time I go home and have to go through customs at Perth Airport, just in case I have something in my bags that they might consider to be illegal. For example, food or some other product that might be on the prohibited list. There's a long list of products that you can't bring into the country, and they're very, very strict, a lot stricter than they are in Spain. And as I said, I get a little bit nervous when I have to go through customs in Australia. One here from Roger. Well done for finally going really hard on the nutters that plagued the comment section. Been an active viewer of your channel for approximately 4 years and watched all the COVID stuff. There seemed to be a nucleus of half a dozen weirdos who then disappear. For example, the ones who were quoting specific dates in September when the enemy would line us up for our fatal injections, only to be replaced by the next lot, rinse and repeat. Many of us fully accept that the soylent green may be edging closer. After all, life imitates art, but we are miles away from that now, so give us a break, guys. Yeah, Roger, thanks for the comment. You're right, when you mention certain topics in a video, you get a lot of strange comments in the comment section. I think this is sometimes because the video might get shared on certain websites where people have certain ideas. For example, if you mention a topic like vaccines, the video might be shared on an anti-vax website. Therefore, a lot lot of the anti-vaxxers decide to go into the comment section and share their points of view. And that's been the same when it comes to mask wearing or the whole COVID pandemic in general. But as I always say, people are entitled to have their opinion as long as it doesn't get abusive. Unfortunately, some people can get a little bit abusive in the comment section. They want you to believe what they believe at all costs, and sometimes they push, and if you don't believe what they say, they can get quite angry. One here from Big J: Stu is unjustly sugarcoating the Spanish Christmas. It is not a proper European Christmas because unfortunately Spanish culture is too heavily influenced by the Arabs. They have weird stuff like camels and sweet throwing and no presents until the end of the Christmas holidays. Yeah, Big J, thanks for the comment. The traditional Spanish Christmas is a little bit different. They do traditionally give their gifts on the 6th of January. Now it's changing a little bit. Children often get gifts on the 25th as well, or the 24th. So a lot of people have a double gift giving celebration. You can still find, of course, the hardcore Spaniard that will only give gifts on the 6th, but I think a lot of people are now warming to the idea of giving gifts on the 24th, as I said. But yes, Christmas is a little bit different. It drags on for a long time, in my opinion. But hey, as the Spanish themselves like to say, Spain is different. On that note, I'll start to wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the situation out as you normally do. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. See you in the next one. Hasta luego.